Hello everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Shelf Review, where today we'll be on the 2018 Baki series. Now, in this episode of Shelf Review, I will be comparing Baki 2018 to, I believe it's the 2001 Grappler Baki anime. Now, these are, of course, they tell the whole story of Baki, because Baki is a very long-running manga and anime right now. And I've been watching Baki 2018 in preparation for Bakido, which is hopefully coming out this year sometime. So, to begin, Baki 2018 is divided into 3 seasons. You have first season, which predominantly focuses on the 5 death row inmates. And then the second season also does as well. Then season 3 focuses on Muhammad Ali Jr. So, I guess I could kind of break it down by going over each season individually. Okay, so, Baki season 1. It was a really good season. So, what it starts with is it introduces us to these 5 death row inmates. Names are Spek, Sikorsky, Yanagi, Dorian, and Doyle. Those names have been so difficult for me to remember for some reason, because most of them aren't really gone over a lot, and I mean, some of them aren't really interesting. Like Yanagi and Spek. Spek is rarely in the show, and Yanagi is just not that interesting to me personally. But, so, series begins, we're introduced to these 5 death row inmates, and all of them have escaped prison at the same time due to the concept of synchronicity, which is someone across the world, or a group of people across the world, doing the same thing at one time, simply out of nowhere. And that's what they call synchronicity in Baki. So, they all escape at the same time, and they've all left messages that they're going to converge in Tokyo. Now, Yanagi was already in Japan, since he was a Japanese citizen, but the other ones, like Sikorsky, came from Russia, Spek and Dorian, I believe, came from the U.S. I don't know about Spek. I believe it was Dorian that came. Yeah, Dorian came from the U.S. and Doyle from elsewhere. Now, they get to Tokyo, Japan, and they just begin to encounter some of the strongest fighters around. First, what happens is they all converge at Tokugawa. Tokugawa is a character from the original Grappler Baki show, where he is a man who runs an underground fighting arena. And they all converge at this fighting arena with all 5 of them, Baki, and larger fighters like Hanayama and Orochi. I believe Katsumi is there too. It's been a moment since I've completed season 1, since I've been going to this relatively slowly. But, yeah. So, they all converge there, and eventually the 5 death row inmates begin to track down these fighters because they all have the desire to experience defeat, which I think is a really cool concept, because these people are overpowered, and all of them want to be defeated, so they're looking for someone to beat them. Now, the first main and really enjoyable fight that I liked about Baki 2018 was the Hanayama and Spek fight. This fight was phenomenal. Literally one of the best in Baki so far. So, what we have for preface is Baki has a girlfriend. Well, they become a couple throughout the events of 2018. But her name's Kozue. And so, they're just having a good time. They've been on a date. They share their technically second kiss at the park. And Baki looks behind Kozue, and he sees Spek is there. Spek has come to fight him, even though he is in the embrace of Kozue. And Kozue, she's not big about Baki fighting, because she doesn't want to see him get hurt. She doesn't want to see him get injured. She wants him to live a life with her. And so, he death glares Spek. And then Hanayama comes out of nowhere and just blasts Spek. Now, this fight is crazy. So, like, the first big thing they have, they're, like, throwing down. Hanayama and Spek, they're going pretty toe for toe. Then, Hanayama gets the upper hand. Spek, he had been staying in a Japanese prison, and he plucked some bullets from the Japanese officers. So, he had a bunch of bullets in his probably, like, 5, I think. And so, what he does is he takes the bullets, puts them in Hanayama's mouth, and, like, pushes his jaw up. And it causes the bullets to explode in Hanayama's mouth. Now, this looks gnarly afterwards. His entire cheeks on both sides are blown out, and he has the tendons of the muscles right here. So it looks absolutely killer. Like, it looks phenomenal. But, yeah, they keep fighting. Eventually, they end up back at the police station. They presume that Spek has been apprehended after Hanayama beat him at the park, but he doesn't. He absolutely annihilates this car that they're in. And Spek and Hanayama fight once more, and eventually Spek is defeated. He gets to experience his defeat, and it's revealed that he was actually, like, I think it's 87 or 97-year-old man. So he loses all of his musculature, and he becomes this malnourished husk of a man that he was. And so, that's the main thing with Spek. Now, the majority of this season afterwards focuses on Dorian. Dorian is probably my favorite out of the 5 death row inmates because he's very crafty. He always pulls himself out of random situation. His main power is hypnosis. He can clap like that, and he can hypnotize his opponent. So we see this acted upon multiple characters. He ends up fighting one of the first people he fights is Doppo Orochi. I love Orochi. Orochi was one of my favorite characters in the original grappler Baki in 2001. And he ends up fighting Orochi. He ends up cutting Orochi's hand off, but Orochi found some backstreet doctor that he apparently knew and got his hand reattached. So with that, we then see Dorian just continue going around looking for someone to defeat him. He ends up going to this amusement park after kind of beefing with the Shinshinkai, which is Orochi's karate area. Orochi, Doppo, I guess I need to specify because Doppo and Katsumi are both major players in this, but Katsumi he's in it more than Doppo is, but he honestly has less of a narrative impact than Doppo does. But, yeah. So, have this, Dorian ends up going to a amusement park to fight this, I don't even remember what the guy's name is, because he was just some random guy. So they end up fighting, and the dude ends up losing to hypnosis from Dorian. Then Kyoretsu. I honestly love Kyoretsu. I wasn't massive on him in the original Grappler Baki, but in Baki 2018 he has a high character improvement because he gets more characterization because he has more screen time. And I just love him. And so he ends up fighting Dorian. He ends up beating Dorian. And after his defeat, Dorian regresses to the brain of a child. So he's just got stupid brained all of a sudden. And when they're on the ride to the ambulance, the ambulance/police car to transport Dorian, and Dorian is just, one time he wakes up and he just stares out the window and he goes, "Candy!" And he's pointing at the tower in Tokyo. I don't know, that got me. I love that scene. But, yeah, after that, we move more on to Zagorski and Doyle. Zagorski, he didn't have many really cool fights. I know one of Zagorski's main opponents, I believe it was... Yeah, I believe it was Jack Hanma. Because they ended up bringing Jack Hanma back, even though he got beat pretty bad. We presumed he was heavily injured at the end of Grappler Baki. But yeah, they bring back Jack, and I love Jack. He's just imposing, because so over the time skip, I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but over the skip between Grappler Baki and Baki 2018, he had leg lengthening surgery. This dude was already massive. I think he's like 6'9" in Baki 2018. So he is gargantuan. He's built, because he's on steroids. But he also has a lot of technique. Like, he's trained his butt off, but he had to get the musculature, so he did steroids. And yeah, so you have Zagorski and Jack ends up beating Zagorski. And then you go to focusing more on Doyle. Now, this is more into the Season 2 area, since I believe the end of Season 1 was around when Dorian got defeated. But then we have to focus on Doyle. Now, Doyle's main, opposition is Katsumi, Doppo Orochi's son. And what he ends up doing is he ends up getting spared by Katsumi, but then he goes to Shinshinkai, where Katsumi is now the main teacher, and he essentially blows up most of Shinshinkai. So, and this kind of mars Katsumi a little bit, but he grows his hair back and all that after a little bit. But yeah, we have that, and Katsumi and Doyle beefing. Then eventually Katsumi is caught by Doyle is caught by Katsumi. Sorry, I got my words mixed up there. But yeah, Doyle's caught, and Katsumi keeps him in this constant state of unconsciousness and consciousness to just beat him up again. So that was pretty funny. And eventually, Doyle ends up getting free. They end up making amends, and then Yanagi pulls up on Doyle. Now, Yanagi has a special trait in which he has exposed his hands to poison throughout years through this martial arts technique to slowly cause his fist to be poisonous. And he ends up poisoning Doyle and causing him to go blind. And this is growing more towards the end of the season 2, by the way. And they end up fighting and all that. Then you have what is, I think, the last battle of season 2, where you have Baki fighting Yanagi. Now, when Baki and Yanagi fight, Okay, so yeah, you have a 2v1. Because Baki ends up facing, I believe, it's Zagorski before Zagorski gets completely defeated by Jack. He ends up fighting Zagorski and Yanagi but ends up getting away and not getting beat because he was actually kind of like he was keeping up with two of the other inmates, and this is because he got boosted from being in a relationship with Kosue. I guess it's some randomized Zenkai boost that bro got, but yeah, he ends up getting a boost from being in a relationship with Kosue, and he ends up doing really good in that fight. So eventually, you have Yanagi coming back to fight Baki, and they fight, and after that, Baki is poisoned, and he was able to beat Yanagi and get him apprehended once more, but he was poisoned. And this leads on to the events that we see in Season 3, because Baki is gravely, like, he's on the verge of death because he has been worn down by this poison. And so, Kyoretsu ends up coming and, well, originally Baki was trying to cure it himself, but he couldn't, which he wasn't built for. So Kyoretsu comes in and he essentially captures Baki and takes him to China, where he's going to partake in the Raitai tournament. Now, the Raitai tournament is held every 1 year, but the Grand Raitai tournament is a centennial tournament, and whoever wins that tournament is bestowed the title of Grand Kaio. And people who win the normal Raitai get Kaio, but Grand Kaio is required for the Grand Kaio tournament. Now, the Grand Raitai, sorry. But yeah, so you have them go, and Baki ends up getting healed, and he gets all of his musculature back. Then you have some fights throughout. Honestly, I wasn't really massive on much of the fights that actually happened in the Raitai tournament, because, I mean, there's kind of bland with no-name characters. Now, like, the fight between the Grand Kaio and Yujiro Hanma, phenomenal. I loved that fight. Because, honestly, I didn't know how well Yujiro was going to do at first, because I was like, oh, this Grand Kaio dude, he seems pretty imposing. Yujiro barely took any damage, and technically, he didn't kill the Grand Kaio, but the Grand Kaio has to stop his heart to end the match, so Yujiro doesn't have to kill him. Yujiro, the go. Yujiro's phenomenal. But yeah, so go on, and after that, we also, during this tournament, we're introduced to Muhammad Ali Jr. Now, he has taken what is called the Art of Ali, his dad's fighting technique of Muhammad Ali, obviously. And he takes it, and he perfects it. So he's become a very powerful fighter, far more powerful than his dad was in his prime. And he was actually able to beat his dad, even though he was like in his 50s, like, I think it was 5 years ago, about the time of the story. So, have them fight, so we know that Muhammad Ali Jr. is an imposing figure. Now, after the Raitai tournament, we go back to Japan, and Muhammad Ali Jr. is trying to court Kosue and take her away from Baki, so Baki will fight him. Now, he also he's just naturally attracted to Kosue, because, I mean, that's just how it is. That's just how the story went like that. But he's also mainly doing it so he can fight Baki, make Baki mad and fight him. And this is where we see Baki's character, and I really enjoy it, because Baki, for all he's been through, is a really, really good guy. Because all he wants to fight is other fighters. He wants to become stronger than his dad. And he's just really kind of, like, we can see how he treats women, and that's very respectful, because he just is very respectful towards Kosue, very respectful toward her decision if she wants to be with Muhammad Ali Jr. or not. So, that was really enjoyable. I really liked that. That made me grow, I guess, more of a relation with Baki's character. Now, with this, the people of Japan, or the big fighters like Shibukawa, Doppo Orochi, they begin to fight Muhammad Ali Jr. And in all of their fights, they get beat the first time. But they come back, and they absolutely annihilate Muhammad Ali Jr. They just humble bro. And this is where, because I didn't talk much on Shibukawa, but honestly, Shibukawa is really one of my favorite characters now, because I really loved him in the original grappler Baki, but now we have him in Baki 2018, and I just love his character, because he's an old man, and he takes advantage of people thinking that he's an old man, because he has phenomenal technique, and he can do so many things. So he is a very cool character. But after that, he eventually goes to this hotel, and he's told there's someone waiting for him, Muhammad Ali Jr., and who's waiting for him is Muhammad Ali. He's come here to fight his own son because he's heard his son's getting, like, trashed on. So he doesn't end up fighting him, but he's like, dude, I'm ashamed of you, bro. And so he ends up convincing him to ultimately fight Baki, because he had kind of lost his drive after he got injured so badly from the rematches with the 3 that he was fighting previously, who rematched him. And so he ends up healing and ends up fighting through his pain to make himself more powerful. And him and Baki ultimately end up having a fight, I believe it's in episode 37. Yeah, episode 37, I believe, is what it is. Or it might be 38. But yeah, so they end up fighting. And during that time, Baki absolutely obliterates Muhammad Ali Jr. Like, after the fight, Muhammad Ali Jr. is literally, like, in the fetal position crying. Coach Ray has to pull up and, like, console him. But, yeah, common Baki W. And I believe he actually only beat him with, I think, required one punch. And he kicked him in the gonads. But, yeah. So, Baki ends up beating him, and Baki, he gets the goal now, and he challenges Yujiro to a fight. Now, this made me mad, because I was really hoping to see a fight between Yujiro and Baki in Baki 2018. Don't get to see that. Gotta wait till Hanma, I guess, if they even do that in Hanma. But it'll be a moment that I'll watch Hanma, because I kind of want to break from the fighting genre for a little bit. But, yeah, challenged him to a fight, and then in the last episode, I believe it was episode 39, we just kind of see build up for Baki Hanma. We see that the 5 death row inmates are doing more things. Like, they're looking like they're going to escape. Unagi even escaped himself. So, with that, we have to start worrying about the 5 death row inmates again. Which I'm going to be kind of disappointed if they focus on it a lot in Baki Hanma, because I feel like the death row inmate story was very complete and should have been independently left and secluded to Baki 2018. But I'll be okay if I see him again, because honestly, I like Dorian. I think Dorian's a really cool character. And, I mean, so is Spec. I like seeing Spec because he was kind of just a wild beast. And I loved his fight with Hanayama, honestly. So, with that being said, now I'm going to compare it to Baki 2001. Now, Baki 2001, if I were to compare all the seasons, I would say Baki 2001's first season is better than all of Baki 2018. Because I just really love the first season of Baki 2001. Because it was a perfect exposition, leaving you with the death of Baki's mom at the end of season. Yeah, sorry about that, but spoilers. But I mean, it's a 25-year-old series, so. But yeah, so that was a phenomenal exposition. I love the fights with I believe the Yasha ape, and I just loved how they built up everything. The introduction, oh my gosh, of Hanayama and everything. So yeah, I believe all of Baki 2018 is worse than Grappler Baki Season 1, 2001. But that's not saying anything bad, because that was a phenomenal season. I really enjoyed it. Now, when it comes to Grappler Baki Season 2, I believe that Seasons 1 and 3 of Baki 2018 are better than the Maximus tournament of Season 2 of Grappler Baki. And that's just because I liked the fights a lot, and I liked the narrative more, because there's more narrative in Season 1 and 3 of Baki than there is in Season 2 of Grappler Baki. But the fights were honestly kind of on an equal level. I did like the fights in the 2018 Baki more, but like fights such as Jack versus Baki at the end of Grappler Baki, I really liked that. So they both had their highs and lows. They're kind of equal, but I would say Baki 2018 is above because they had equally as good fights, yet more narrative. I'm a big fan of narrative when it comes to fighting, even though the main appeal is the fighting, but I like the narrative as well. So, but yeah, if I were to say which series is better, I don't know if I can necessarily put one above the other. They're good in different ways. Now, I would say that Grappler Baki Season 1 is better story than almost all of Baki 2018. Because there's not much story to Baki 2018, but it's really good. And the little story there is enjoyable. So I would say that, yeah, they're about equal in respect to each other. But, yeah, that is my review of Baki 2018. Now I'm going to discuss a little bit of what I'm going to do later. So, like I said, I'm going to be getting a little tired of watching fighting sticks. I've been watching a lot of fighting recently. I finished up Bleach here a while back. I don't know if I'll make a video on it because I'll probably just wait till the last season of 1,000 Year Blood War comes out this year. But, yeah, right now, not yesterday, actually today, I started reading The Orchard Keeper by Cormac McCarthy, so you can expect a video on that probably in a week or so. But, yep, read that, and I'm starting Monster, because as you can see back there, I have the first 2 volumes of Monster, but, well, not the first 2 volumes, but the first 2, like, omnibuses or dual volumes, whatever they're called, and could never find 3, so I just was like, no, I'm gonna break down and watch the anime. So I'm watching the anime Monster, and I'll probably make a video after each arc and completed that, so I believe, like, there should be one soon, considering I believe the first arc is only, like, 6 episodes long. So you'll probably have a Monster video coming pretty soon, and I would honestly bet on a Hades 2 video review coming out pretty soon, too, because I have already completed the story, but I'm 100% just give you a full rundown of how enjoyable it was to 100% this game, because as a video game player, I am a absolute fiend for 100% in games. So, yeah, once I get that fully completed, you'll probably have a Hades 2 video. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to. And once again, I thank you for watching my shelf review episode 2, and see you guys later.